Hello all, my name is Erta the Wanderer, and I've stopped my travelings today to sit down again with one of our greatest generals, Lizardwizard. How are you doing, Lizard?
I'm well, thank you. How are you tonight?
So far, things are going well, despite the most recent news. We have recently have adjustments to our rules in the latest FAQ and errata. Any initial thoughts?
Uh, Nothing I didn't expect. Some questions I had were left unanswered. Overall, it's pretty nerfy.
Mm-hmm. Not anything we wouldn't expect to be changes, but every expected change makes us decidedly worse.
hmm there was one good change. Ways of the Seraphon, the Sage's staff, now lets you do it at the start of the hero phase, not your hero phase.
Really? So we can use it in enemy phases now?
Yep. So that was nice.
Hmm. It means you don't have to give up more powerful dispelling, because you can just always switch back to it.
Exactly. Yep.
Oh, so not a complete loss.
Yeah, and let me double check the way. Nope, never mind. Doesn't matter because sacred astromacies say at the start of your hero phase. Well, that's tricky then.
Hmm. Maybe you can just choose a new wizard in each hero phase. So if you want to buff a skink wizard when you're casting, and then your slans when you're dispelling.
Mhm. All right. So I'm looking directly at the new Battletome Seraphon official April 2020 errata.
Mm-hmm.
It says ways of the Seraphon, the Sage's staff. Change the first line of the rules text to at the start of the hero phase, pick one friendly Seraphon wizard.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is from the Battle Tome itself, the Sage's Staff. In the hero phase, pick one friendly Seraphon wizard. You can add one to casting or dispelling rolls for that wizard. If it's your hero phase, you can add one to unbinding rolls for that wizard if it's the enemy hero phase. So, what actually changed?
It's not the
Seraphon
entire hero
wizard.
phase, it's just the start of, so they're just cleaning up wording.
Gotcha. Yep.
Well,
Huh.
never mind.
Yeah,
Uh,
nothing actually changed.
in fact, the best things about this is what they didn't touch. They didn't touch on salamanders, so thank
hmm
goodness, they're still just as strong as always. And
Yep.
surprisingly, they didn't touch at all on razordons, so they can still fire when they charge.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah, it's a good ability and gives them an actual place on the battlefield. Another
hmm
change that everyone expected, but I was dreading because of that.
Yeah, it means you're much more likely to be able to get your Rind one
Mm-hmm.
um, to go off. I don't know how much I like it. I guess if I want to tie something up, so like if I'm thinking minimum sized Razordons,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to shoot at you, and I'm going to charge in and get some extra shooting, and I'm going to charge into the corner of your horde and mess with your pile-ins, that's great. I don't know how often I am to charge with a full sized unit of Razordons though.
Fair. But it also supports just how much of our army tends to be switch hitters,
Yep.
shooting, charging, running away if they can.
Yeah.
But
Uh, there is one great thing though about Dracothian's Tell. So I'm not 100% sure on this. So I'm going to read it directly and then give my reasoning for why I think this is the change. But it
okay.
says instead of setting up a friendly Dracothian's Tell unit on the battlefield before the battle begins, you can place it to one side and say that it's set up and waiting to appear as a reserve unit. Um, so the battle begins as one interpretation can mean before the first turn, but during the setup phase, or the setup phase could be considered part of the battle. So if it's before that, you can drastically reduce your drops.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's very likely. I think it's more just now you don't have to put one on the table for each you put in the heaven.
Right. I
But it
think
is
that's
something
it
that
more
needs
than
further
anything.
clarification. Yeah, yeah.
The original wording was you had to put a unit, then you could put one in the heavens. This one just
hmm
says you can put half of them in the heavens as long as you end up. Hmm.
Yeah.
It also
And
means
I
that
don't think it reduces the amount you can put in. It says instead of setting up one, you can put it into the heavens.
yeah, the original
Um,
problem was you could only ever put half of your army in the heavens because you had to
yeah.
have an equal amount on the board. Now it seems to this can now bypass it.
Yep. Which is really cool because it means in those rare cases where we're out dropping our opponent, we can basically null deploy. You can put your slant on the table, everything else in the heavens, lords in space and time your slant up, and then drop everything if you wanted to.
Hmm. It helps a lot with the very slow speed of our army.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, skinks are still pretty fast, but yeah, everything else, all our source stuff is dreadfully slow.
and our monsters,
Yep.
and yeah, all of our support.
Yep.
And now we come to the
Yeah,
real
we've got a
disappointment.
flying chair that's 5 inches.
Right? Yeah, but now we come to the real disappointment. They kicked Fangs of Zotek so hard.
Yeah,
Everyone tells me that this is completely expected, and they're right. But again, this hurts so bad.
it really does. And I didn't. So, sure, it was too powerful the way it was against any of those middle of the pack armies,
It really
but it's
wasn't,
hardly more broken than any of the top tier things.
right? It made us a sort of on the low end of good shooting. With
Hmm.
three groups of skinks, it put us about at 65 damage round,
Hmm.
which is the very lowest of all the shooting armies. So it
Yeah,
didn't even make us good. It made us not terrible. But now that
yeah.
it's just the ones that get charged,
And it cost us a lot of CP to do it,
I
and
know
it
it took
cost us all our hero slots.
like 6 plus.
Yep.
And maybe
Yeah.
if it gave you a guaranteed runaway, I'd still think it was awesome. But it doesn't.
Yeah.
And you also can't use it when you charge, which was why Wary Fighter was so awesome in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you could charge and then wary fighter onto an objective
Or Wary
back
Fighter
in the day.
3 inches away to prevent them from moving.
Yep. All sorts of things. It was super useful. I still like Fangs of Sotek. It's
They're
still my go-to battalion.
they're still very
Uh,
good.
yeah,
But
but it was a big nerf.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it
Yeah.
cuts the ability of skinks in half, and skinks, despite everything, are not good shooters.
Yeah.
They are okay shooters at best. This made them better, but it doesn't anymore.
I think what's likely for me now with my Fangs of Sotek list, and this is what a lot of them were. But Blitzkrieg had already done a list that was like double max size units of skinks and a 30 size unit of skinks with the two of each priest and croak. That was a pretty, I think, solid Fangs of Sotek list. And I'd been playing around with the idea of double sets of priest and some big blobs of skinks as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I like all those lists. I'm no longer working on now. I think most lists for as far as skink breakup goes for Fangs of Sotek, for myself at least, I'm only going to be doing the one of each hero. And then a 40 blob with probably bolt splitters and clubs,
Mm-hmm.
and then javelins and shields on two 10-man units just to fill battle line. Because at that point, I might as well take javelins if they're going to be retreating. Because you're charging me, I'm in range.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there's no reason really to take the bolt spitter on the minimum sized units anymore for me.
Right. Hmm. Just another missed opportunities. This whole
Yep.
page just seems to be missed opportunity after missed opportunity.
This one hurts me a lot. The Ripper Chief Ripper Dactyl's assault. The only thing that made Ripper Dactyls worth taking, in my opinion. Uh, Now the same unit can't benefit from the command ability more than once per phase.
Yep.
Uh,
I got into a fairly heated debate about this on Lustria, where someone said, "Oh, this is perfectly fine. Without that, it made his things terribly, terribly broken. You might as well just auto-delete a unit." I'm all, it took 12 CP to make them as good as old Rippers.
yeah, yeah,
12.
and they weren't outside of like it. It mm, yeah, uh, yeah. I just don't see myself taking Rip. I don't see myself taking a Ripper Chief more. I could see myself taking 3-man units
Really?
because they're like what 70, 80 points.
I think
Uh,
they're 80, yes.
yeah, so I mean that's not bad for what they are. Um, so if I just want something that's fast and kind of attacky, maybe as like a
Or just a
deterrent
big
to
base
a horde.
block.
Yeah, or to even just run up and yeah, block a zone, block a charge, whatever. They're not bad, uh, but they're nothing to build a list around anymore.
Right. And even then, like, pterodons do it better. They
Oh, for
Rippers
sure.
got flat. Uh, Rippers got slower, and pterodons got faster.
Hmm.
So
The one thing you can do for Rippers, though, that you can't do for Pterodons is between your two skinks, you can turn a set of Rippers into a 3+ save
mhm.
with 3 wounds each. So that's not awful. If for whatever reason you're able to put them in cover, now they're a 2-up save. So there might be something there. It's nothing you build a list around.
Right. It's not something. What you have to remember for competitive plays, it doesn't just have to be good, it has to be consistent. You have to
Yeah.
be able to rely on them to do the job that you want them to do.
Yep.
And Rippers don't.
Yeah. And our buffs are so important that we really can't be wasting them on something that
Ripperdactyls.
isn't going to get a job done.
Hmm.
They cleared up all the Stegadon and Engine of the God stuff, though, so that was great. They fixed mounts so that they work like you think they should work. Uh, they fixed Engine of the God so it works like you think it should work.
Did they?
Crews,
It
all of
still
that.
says that for the Engine of the Gods, the crew is the mount.
Yeah. But I think that's because the priest doesn't actually have a weapon profile, I'm pretty sure.
He does not. But the whole problem with the Engine of the Gods was that you couldn't put an artifact on it that would help because you're just buffing the crappy crew.
That's true, yeah.
So this is just the same problem. They just doubled down.
Yeah. What it does mean though is that like the Stegadon itself is the hero. Um, so that's not
Right,
necessarily
you
bad.
can put a sword of Japan on the feet of
Uh
the
huh.
Engine of the Gods, which is hilarious and
Yeah,
shouldn't be a
exactly.
thing, which is why I'm so confused.
Yeah. So I mean, there's that. That's okay. Um, it just doesn't work with ancient Stegadon helm.
Mm.
But it works with like all the weapon
Or Thunder
artifacts, which
Lizard
is
General Command trait.
oh that as well. Yeah. But I feel like if you're running Thunder Lizards and you're running Stegadon, your chief should be the general anyways,
Mm-hmm.
for a variety of reasons. But yeah.
Hmm.
And then Bound, Belwyn, Vortex, they decided that they needed to put the language caveat of the wizard must have 9 wounds or less, because I guess they didn't want Troglodyns riding Belwyns.
I don't know why that would have been a problem, because, I mean, beyond consistency.
Yeah.
Because you never would put an Oracle on a Balewind. You just put the Slan on a Balewind.
Yeah, I guess if you were running Slan list, if you really wanted to be cheeky, you could have a +1 save Troglodon that's getting 2 spellcast at +1 and can unbind from anywhere on the table. Like, it's still not as good as putting a Slan on a Bellwind by any
Right,
stretch.
because he has all the
But yeah.
casting bonuses.
Uh-huh. Yep. Uh, but if you really wanted to in the past, I guess you could have.
Yeah, I think this is mostly just keeping everything consistent. As funny as it would be to put an Oracle on a Balewind, it was never really gonna be a thing.
Yeah, it's not like it was something that was going to break the.
Hmm. Well, on to
Uh,
designer's commentary. The
yep.
punches keep coming. Summoning still sucks.
Yep. It works how you thought it worked. It doesn't work the way we
Everyone
hoped it
hoped it
worked.
worked.
Yep. Just the first one in terms of giving up a spell, so you can only do it once.
Mm. And this wasn't anything that people were really thinking was a thing. It was what everyone
Hmm.
hoped was true. Because
Yeah.
everyone hoped that summoning wasn't complete and utter crap.
Yep. And there was room to read it a different way, just because whatever your first spell was, if you didn't cast it, then the next spell was obviously your first spell because your first spell wasn't a spell.
Right. There
But
was wiggle
yeah,
room, which is why the hope was out there.
yep. Uh, I I'm glad they clarified bound endless spells. Counting is the same endless spell. I just didn't want to deal with casting a Bellwind on top of a Bellwind and then having a model that's made of resin precariously sitting on top of it.
As funny
Uh,
as that would be, yeah.
yeah. And they clarified the whole Bellwind inside of a Realm Shaper engine. Because technically, rules is written, your Realm Shaper engine would have then been placed on top of your Bellwind.
I know, I've been
Uh,
saying that since the beginning. It would be the funniest looking thing ever, but it would also
yeah.
be very thematic, because that
Uh huh.
looks like something the Realm Shaper should be able to do.
Yeah, true. But then you'd have to build a bottom structure under your Realm
I
Shaper.
don't care,
Yeah.
it looks so cool.
But yeah, so they clarified that. Um, it also would have been broken, right? Because if you have 20 wounds inside of it,
Mm,
and now your model footprint is the footprint for the Bellwind Vortex, all
right.
of your guys can attack it. Yeah, it would have been bad. Uh,
Well,
so
and
it's good that they clarified it.
mm-hmm,
It's still a nerf because I feel like the other interpretation that made the most sense is
that
it's
you
just
filled it with a
off the
Balewind.
table.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're still inside the garrison, but you're also on top of the Bellwind. But that's not the case. You just
Mm,
stop outside the bell or outside of the Realm Shaper engine, following the exact same rules for how you shut up a vortex.
yeah. And speaking of the poor Realm Shaper, they didn't fix it at all.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they
Yep.
just confirmed our worst fears.
Yeah. Yep. Enemies can garrison.
It is the
Uh,
first faction terrain that helps your enemies.
yeah, potentially. The good news is we can always choose not to place it
Right.
if it's pretty apparent that it is going to be helpful to our enemy.
But isn't that a
Um,
sad thing to think? The good
yeah, I
news is
know,
you
right?
don't have to use it.
When one of the major complaints about the new terrain rules from the GHB 19 was that it was so hard to be able to set up your terrain.
Right.
So it's weird that like they gave you the special rules so that you set up in such a way that it's not impossible to set up, the same way they do
But
the
it
Bone
takes
Tide
it away
Nexus.
from you.
Yeah, but then they take away your ability to maybe use it.
But the thing about the
Uh,
Bone Tide Nexus is you don't have to have anyone next to it. It just does its
yeah.
thing.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yep.
maybe if you could just use the mortal wounds ability regardless, and if an enemy garrisons it, it hits them when you use it.
Yeah.
That would be good
Mm-hmm. Yep.
because they can
But
definitely
no.
garrison it, but it hurts them to do so. But no, it.
Yeah.
I've heard so
Uh,
many people who are disappointed in this and are returning their realm shapers because this hurts it so bad.
yeah, it does. But I'm still gonna bring one because when I get to use it, it's gonna be great. I still love it for Battle for the Pass because you can
Mm,
really screw up your enemy's ability to deploy.
right.
Um, and there's some other ones that it's really good on, like Duality of Death. There's some things you can do with it. Um, I think it's going to be battle plan specific and opponent specific, which is really sad. But in the cases where it's good, I think it's rather.
Right. It does have a place. It just feels bad that we have to work so hard to give it a place.
Yep. And then the next designer's commentary for Skinks and Chameleon Skinks for Parting Shot. I didn't even know this needed to be addressed because it literally says the Skink and Chameleon Skink War Scroll, and then someone asked the question, and they basically repeat what's written in the book.
Right. Well,
So
remember, Thunder Tusks had to be told, no, you can't run and shoot 3 times, I believe.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we're dealing with people who need to be told the rules.
Scaly Skin was so sad.
Yeah.
Uh,
It
it
was an
not applying to
outlier.
Mortal Wounds.
It was
I
very
mean,
much an outlier where attacks deal enough mortal wounds for it to matter, but
yeah,
enough of them that it really hurts us in certain matchups.
yeah, like Fire Slayers. They're one like you have to have a contingency plan to beat Hermdar
Hmm.
if you want to go 5-0 at a big event.
Right, because it's so
And
prevalent.
Scaly Skin was good.
Yeah, it
Like
went
it just
from situational but good,
yep,
very good, to very situational and okay.
yeah,
Because
yep,
again, consistency is king, and an ability that doesn't do anything for you 2/3 of the time is not a good ability, even if it's game breaking.
Yeah.
And with that, like, three of the abilities from Coalesced are either situationally good but mostly useless, or bad.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Coalesced a whole lot. I in general prefer Starborn, if anything, for their bravery.
Right.
Um,
The
and then the
bravery
summoning is
nerf is
just a
the big
bonus.
killer, but the other two of the other abilities being mostly useless.
Hmm.
Uh,
And then last podcast, I had mentioned the possibility of like maybe deaths or a modifier or whatever. I just wanted to clear up like
yeah, that
we
got
looked at it, we went through the rules, and it's definitely not the case.
okay.
You're not bravery immune for being coalesced.
Yep. So it's back to being a entirely a detriment.
Yeah, yeah, it's only a detriment, especially with the way they work for ignoring terrain rules and stuff. It's not even like there's going to be an issue.
Right. Like Deadly doesn't do anything, and yeah, none of the stuff do anything. If it
Yeah,
managed to avoid like obscuring, so that you
yeah. If overgrown and some of
right,
the other ones didn't, yeah.
or the new darkness that demon
Legion of the
princes can
Damned,
use.
yeah, yep.
But
For
no,
just
it's
spoilers, yeah,
just the inherent ones, and the inherent ones aren't dangerous enough to be a
yeah.
thing.
The biggest thing out of the designer's commentary is that they finally solved the debate over Bastillodons. Uh,
They did. Well, not really. I had an additional argument with somebody about it because they didn't quite understand how saves work, and this is worded so badly.
That's true because it literally says in there. This means while the Bastillodon has a save characteristic of 1+, it doesn't take damage or whatever. They're successful. Yeah, save characteristic of +1 save rolls of 1 are successfully saved. Like that line
Mm,
really muddies the water. Um, but what's happening for those who don't understand is a roll can't be modified below 1. So if you have a +1 save,
a two or
the
better.
way it, yeah, or better, the way it interacts with the rule of ones is you would roll your dice, you remove any ones from that pool because that's the rule of one.
After
Uh,
rerolls, but before modifiers take effect.
yes, exactly. So obviously using all out defense is great, but you then check, you remove those ones, then you check to see if you make any saves. Rend can't reduce you below 1, so you're basically just Rend immune at your first level.
Yeah.
Because Rend can never take you below 1, and 1-ups are always successes for
So
you.
many
You're not going to
lizards
have any
have brought
natural ones in
forward.
that pool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So many
yeah,
lizards have brought forward that it should just be on the war scroll. 2+ ignores rend for the first
yes,
bracket because that's what
100%.
it does.
Yep. Would have been so much more clear.
But GW keeps doing what GW does,
Yep,
which is be absolutely crap at rules writing.
agreed. Now for the interesting part of the, or I suppose more useful part of this plan for the episode. Now that our FAQs are out, do a bit more of talking about how we fare against some of the top armies in the game, I think.
Right. Just which ones we stack up to, how to face the big people in the meta.
Mm-hmm.
So we aren't going to be going over everyone today, just the big players and a couple of ones that are old enemies. So, the big one on everyone's lips right now, and for good reason, is the Disciples of Zinch. They are
Mm-hmm.
oppressively good at the moment, even with the nerfs that they got hit with.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I think we have tools to win against them. Uh, and part of it, so I guess we have to clarify. There's two rather good disciples of Zinch list.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, one of them is the Eternal Conflagration. That's the like Flamer list. Sometimes Flamer and Pink Horror, depending on like what your local player prefers to do.
Yep, and
Uh,
all the lists are shoving it into Change Host and teleporting them across the field
yeah.
because it's a one
Uh,
drop and it gives you teleport.
Yep. So that's like the internal conflagration. There are a couple of fringe lists that are really good for Disciples of Tzeentch that are like the Summoners Guild, where you bring a bunch of Gaunt Summoners and summon a bunch of pink horrors for free, and then spend all game summoning lots and lots of Lords of Change.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that one you don't see as much, and
Right. They
as
have a
long as
bunch
you're
of
not,
good lists, but two are the
Mhm.
best by a
Yeah,
large margin.
yeah, and so those are sort of the two,
Yeah,
and
there's the
it's
Eternal
definitely a
Conflagration, and the other one is the Pink Horrors, where you aren't allowed to retreat from them. So they just
yeah.
push into you and tie you down for the entire game because they are impossible to kill.
Yep. And that one's actually not as bad for us because we have the mortal wound tools, especially if you're bringing Croak
Mm-hmm.
and some endless spells to really chew through those pink horrors.
Right. And if
Um,
you're running Source, we actually do enough damage to them
yeah.
to kill them
Uh,
in like two activations, I think it is.
yeah, it's pretty quick, especially since they're so bad at combat. So if we're able to double turn them, we clean them up real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but in terms of Disciples of Tzeentch, I would say that you're either running Kotal's Claw is your best matchup, or Dracothian's Tell. Um, the reason I like Dracothian's Tell as a matchup for them is because you can protect your Slan through zoning,
Mm-hmm.
because they also get basically Lord just in time,
Right.
so long as their Lord of Changes on the field. Uh, and so but we have enough bodies and we're quick enough that we sort of zone out the regions to protect our slan and then keep stuff in the heaven, do our own lords of space and time and drop our stuff. That way they can't kill our fun toys.
Mm-hmm.
uh, but it
Coatls
has the
would.
potential of setting us back a turn for hero.
True, but we're always playing on the back foot. We're Seraphon.
Yeah. But I think we're enough of a counterpunch as an army, uh, that eternal conflagration, uh, it's going to hurt, but I do think we still have the tools to beat them.
You have to be
Uh,
very careful with them because if you make a
mhm.
mistake, they gut your army and you have no support heroes.
Yeah, it's real true. We have to outplay them. So it basically puts us in a similar situation.
I mean, it's
Uh,
what we always dealt with. What you
yeah,
want to do is you have a big screening unit so they can't just teleport into the center of you, and then behind them, far enough back that they don't get shot off the board, so about 9 inches behind your front line, you have the
yep.
units that are going to kill the flamers when they come down.
Yeah, and pterodons are great at it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like Fangs of Sotek, just because of how quick you can move and how far back you can potentially deploy. Our worst matchup against this by far is Duality of Death, because we can't zone out the
Yes.
regions to stop them. They could just get us. Uh, yeah, we just don't have the surface area.
Yeah.
But in general, Fangs of Sotek has a really good counterpunch if you're running pterodons or even skink blobs to flamers.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because flamers are deal way more damage than we do, but are also a lot easier to kill.
yeah, they've got that 5+ save. Coalesced is really good at dealing with the flamers because it's half the time going to reduce their damage by one. Uh, so I think we have an okay matchup against Disciples of Tzeentch.
Just accept that
Uh,
units are going to die and have a plan to hit them back.
yeah, it's really about deployment. Like you beat Disciples of Tzeentch, or at least set yourself up with the potential to beat Disciples of Tzeentch based on how you deploy.
Mm.
Um,
So
I
practice some
think a lot
people.
of
So
yeah,
many games are lost in deployment.
yep. And actually think some of the good Disciples of Tzeentch players, if they understand what's going on, if you're playing correctly and you deploy in such a way that their Alpha Strike isn't going to be worth it,
Mm-hmm.
I think they're probably going to make us go first. Um,
Which isn't a terrible thing, especially with Dracothian's Tail, because it lets us
uh-huh.
bunker down.
Yeah, with Dracothian's Tell and even with Fangs of Sotek, because it's pretty risky to let a 40 blob unit of skinks under buff get the chance to fire, which they definitely will with Lords of Space and Time.
Mm.
So
Because
I think we're in an okay place versus the top two. It's that weird third list that's the Summoners Pact. That one's potentially rough for us. I don't know if we can deal that
mm,
much damage.
even then, we're really good at hero sniping, so as long as you can hit them before they get that first
Yeah, if you can kill one or two Gaunt Summoners before they pop their pink horrors.
or even without that, like before they start bringing in the Lords of Change,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because we have the dispelling to deny them, and
Mhm.
we have the hero sniping abilities to start wiping out their support.
Yes. Yep. And start killing down those acolyte units that are wizards and giving them free casts and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So it's
Like
not
all
a
of
good
that.
matchup, but we can face Zinch,
Yep.
which is the big problem at the moment. When you're going to tournaments, you have to know how to face Zinch, and you have to know how to face Ozark Bone Reapers.
Uh huh. Our old book was actually better at playing against Zinch than we are now.
Yes, it same with the Bone Reapers. The
I feel way more comfortable against Bone Reaper now.
Really, because
Yeah.
I always did. I think that our old book did way better at zoning them out.
Sure, yeah. And maybe my view of Bone Reapers is tainted because I play against Jeremy Vasire, who's one of the top ranked players in the world, and Alex Gonzalez, who's one of the top ranked players in the world. And they're the two people I play that play Bone Reapers. So maybe that has me tainted against them.
Granted,
Uh, but now, like especially just with Fangs of Sotek, uh, Skinks will kill the Galthazar Harvester.
that was
Uh,
always our problem. Yes, we can
yeah,
actually fight them now. Beforehand, I
yeah.
think we did a much better job of just locking them into their deployment and never letting them move, which has always been
Yep.
OBR's main weakness.
My and it could also just be because of the list I was running. My tournament list for Seraphon in the past that I had started using when I switched away from Dracothian's Tail because I wanted to get to kill some things occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
um, it was 10 drops. So I never got to go first, so I didn't get the chance to cage them in their deployment because they knew I would. So they
Yeah,
were always like max movement, beelining out of their deployment, getting to the center of the table. Um,
yeah. I played Stalingrad, which is just the endless skink tide.
gotcha.
So and one drop. So
Yeah,
turn
yeah.
one, 40 skinks. You're never leaving, and that did so much damage to OBR.
Yeah, yeah, because they've already got. I mean, they're faster than people think they are, but they're still not super fast.
No,
Uh,
and to be that fast, they have to give up their either their durability or their damage.
Punchiness, yeah.
They're a lot like us actually.
Uh
Only
huh.
we instead of using not CP, we use normal CP, which
Uh huh.
is way better because we can use generic command abilities.
Yes. In terms of like, if you're trying to tailor a Seraphon list to beat OBR, I actually think our best option, the Starborn with the Sunclaw Star Host.
Yes,
Um, like having that 40-man block of SARS with spears at Rend 1, and then you bring enough shooting so that you can shoot down the Galthazar,
right. You
you
bring a
charge in
block of
your warriors.
salamanders, shoot
Yep,
their support hero. Well, shoot their harvester. Use your magic to kill the bone shapers,
yep.
and then just grind them down. Because we can win in a grind fest.
Well, and we don't even have to grind. So, like, if you fully buff your warriors, so you've got the Scar Veteran, the Old Blood, and the Scent of Weakness on the Mortek Guard.
Mm-hmm.
If we've already killed the Galthazar Harvester, you should deal an average of like 28 damage to the
Yes.
Mortek Guard.
Uh, well, let's see. They have 5-up rerolling.
Yeah, so it depends if their spell's gone off. Most of the people that I see are running Archon, so I'm assuming we have a better than not chance of unbinding their spell versus them getting it off.
You would do
So if,
19 to 31 damage to them.
yeah, somewhere in there. Uh,
So you take a
so
chunk out of them.
yeah, and if you have some other stuff to them, then you should be able to finish them off. And we've got a couple ways to go for the Galthazar. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of like pterodons for it, just like flying your pterodons over it, and then turn around and throw your bolas into the Mortek. And between that and some SARS, you should probably kill it. But we've got enough that previous unkillable block. I think Starborn has pretty much all the tools to deal with.
Mm-hmm. And same with our one coalesced list because
Yeah,
the defense of Coatl won't help because again, Ozzy
yeah,
Bone Reapers only deal 1 damage, but the rest of it, um, the just the amount of damage Coatl's Claw can put out should help us a lot with dealing with the blob or even horses if they decide to take those because those are good
yeah.
too.
Agreed. Stalkers, they also have a better matchup against, which I see a lot of stalkers. Like I see
Well,
more
that's
than
because
Eternal
stalkers are
Guard or
fun.
horses. Yeah, and they're versatile. Like who doesn't want two rend, three damage?
Oh lord.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they just look so cool.
Hmm.
OBR looks cool, regardless of what happens. I'm okay with getting punched in the face by OBR because they look like the villain they're supposed to be.
Yes, and the other OBR list that's getting some popularity, or was starting to show popularity just before Corona decided we couldn't play Warhammer anymore,
Hmm.
uh, was the multiple Mortek crawlers, and
Right.
that one I also think we have a fairly easy time dealing with. Um,
Being able to
we have,
teleport whatever your hammer is
mhm,
into range and just beat on them. Yeah.
yep, yeah, uh, and for some of our lists, we don't even have, like, we can just literally run there. If they're in range of us, then they're, or yeah, if they're in range to shoot us, we're in range to get to them for like pterodons under Fangs of Sotek and cogs and running and all the other stuff. Um,
Yep.
so I don't think that one's nearly as scary, but they both require different types of
Yeah.
deployment.
You do have to be
Uh,
very careful with crawlers. We are a very hero dependent army and they kill heroes. That's their entire
yep,
existence.
yeah, especially for those skink heroes that have the 5-up save.
One hit and they're
That means
dead.
they've got an over 30% chance of just one shotting them. Um,
But they are a prime target for Geminids.
uh-huh, yep. Uh, and just in general, pretty much anything that we can reach over to them with.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, they don't handle tearing nearly as well. So like even if you can just get Croak up on the Bellwind and Astrolith and like start throwing out some mortal wounds, you can tear down those Mortek crawlers pretty
You
quickly.
do have to be careful. They can hit hordes better when they're damaged.
Yeah, but
And we're very much a
I'm
horde army.
assuming my hordes are going to be weakened by then. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It's definitely something that you have to consider and play around.
Hmm.
But OBR in general, we can now kill them. Before we just had to like out table them. Now we can punch back.
Right. That seems to be the universal Seraphon thing in the new book. It used to be
Uh huh.
you had to beat them on the table because we were terrible.
Hmm.
Now we can fight.
Yep.
You have to be
And we
better at them.
still are. Mhm.
Yeah, we still have to be better than our opponent by a lot because our army is not easy to use. But we have a fighting chance.
Yeah, we require a lot of planning. So definitely, whenever you're going to events, make sure like you're doing your homework, you understand how to optimally play the army for each battle plan, and you have a good idea of what you're going to do against the top dogs at the tournament.
Mm.
Um, I think we're a good army. Like I think our army has an easier time going 5-0 than it did before the book.
Well, yeah, it would have to. We didn't manage it in the last year.
Yeah. We had a Rose 5-0 victory, which is an MT in the Portland area.
Mm.
Uh, but that player got some rules wrong. So, I mean, they didn't take it from him at all.
Right.
It was just there were some things that were done incorrectly. Um, and so I think that was the only 5-0 that we're close to. Oh, Adepticon. We
Yes,
did all
but if
right.
you've actually watched those, that came down to ridiculous amounts of luck.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah. That
Like
one was super lucky.
when I was
Uh,
first told about, oh, you won Abdecticon, you guys are doing fine. I watched all 5 games on their pay-per-view stuff, and every single line I'm all, did he ever fail a Lords of Space or time roll?
Yeah, and he rolled like a god for his shooting. The enemies missed a bunch of saves. Like it was, he knew how to capitalize
Yeah,
off luck, and he
this
got
was a
lucky.
Black Swan event, guys. We weren't good. This was just the gods of luck smiling at us for one whole day.
Yeah. What I think is our toughest matchup as a whole is Cities, either Hollow Heart or Living City.
Right.
Both of those are real scary matchups.
Cities has a bunch of lists, but one real tactic, and that is bridge everybody right next to your opponent and shoot the ever loving bejesus out of them.
Yeah, either with Iron Drakes, which I think is a better option,
Yes.
or handgunners. Steam copters aren't bad either, but yeah, it's their tactic. Get
Right.
in your face, unload your guns.
We don't deal well with alpha strikes because our heroes are so important, and we
Yep.
do even worse against shooting because shooting can hit our heroes. And cities has enough shooting that lookout sir does not matter, and they can go before us because we're terrible at drops, so we can't hit them
This
with geminids.
this is one thing to keep in mind though. So if you're playing against a city's, risk the Realm Shaper engine, because they're going to come to you anyways.
Right.
So if it's in their territory, whatever. Sure, they might put their freaking Celestial Huracanum in it, and you'll never kill it. Whatever, you probably won't
But
get to
it's
kill it
also
anyways.
not very good when it's in the backfield.
Yeah. So you don't have to worry too much about them taking it, because they're going to come to you anyways. And then
Mm-hmm.
if they come to you and you have it, all your heroes inside of it, plus a unit near it for Lookout Sir. Now you're at -2 to hit, and you've got a +1 save. Uh, you're going to devalue their shooting massively.
Right.
So I
And
think
if
against any
nothing
good,
else, it gives you a big blocker to hide behind.
that as well. Yeah, you can block line of sight for like your little skink heroes. Um, I think you'll have a hard time blocking line of sight with a slan unless you don't have the plaques on top of it. Um, but for a lot of our skinks, super easy to hide our heroes behind it. Um, for the ones you can't hide, you can put them inside. Uh, if it's your slans, you can stick Saurus Guard near the temple. So now you can pass off wounds. You're getting Lookout Sir.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to risk the temple. If you can get the temple in your deployment, I think we have a better than not chance of beating the Cities of Sigma armies.
True, but you're right. It is probably our worst matchup because
Yeah.
Cities excels at shooting heroes. It excels at killing hordes, and we're heroes in hordes.
Yep. Yep.
But big
Uh,
targets
but
to focus on against cities, you
mhm.
don't have to kill Hollowheart Wizards, guys. You just have to hurt them.
Yeah. Yep.
They
That way they can't risk those
Yeah,
mortal
they
wounds.
cannot use blood magic if they take 2 or 3 wounds because they have a better than 50-50 chance of dying outright.
Yeah. Or just kill the thing that they were going to send over to you. Um, And what also helps us, even though Hollowheart is like got a good shot at getting a plus 4+ to their casting,
Mm-hmm.
uh, with Croak, if we get to go first, which probably isn't likely, we've got a good shot at being +4 to our or +3 to our unbinds.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's not unreasonable that we could maybe unbind stuff. It's a little bit more luck dependent than the standard matchup is for them.
Right, which is
Uh,
why Cities is such a bad matchup for us.
yep,
It all depends on whether you can unbind that bridge once. If you
yep,
can do that, you can hurt them enough that it's no longer a problem. If
yep.
you can't, then
When if we weather their shooting, like if we get our temple and we bunker down and we weather it, our counter punch is gonna be real hard. Like
yeah.
they're all up in our face. All of our endless spells are gonna come out. Like we're gonna tear them apart.
But that first wave to survive through, I, I,
Yep.
I run I run shoot what's the one that you can take KO in? I'm forgetting at the moment.
Tempest Eye.
Yeah, I run Tempest Eye guys with 50 Iron Drakes. It's going to be hard to live through that. They are
Yeah.
the most consistent shooting army in the game. You don't get a save against them because they're +3, they're -3 rend.
Yeah.
They will hit you and they will hit you hard. Focus on focus on hurting their wizards, killing their Huracanum, and their shooting just falls apart.
Yep.
If you
Yeah.
can't do that, it's not easy for us to kill their shooting blobs because they're naturally resistant to a lot of things,
hmm
but we can do it.
Fire Slayers is the other tanky army. They're basically OBR, uh, almost identical in terms of play, except they don't have magic. That's really the only difference.
And their
Uh,
heroes are harder to snipe.
Yeah, just because they have the Hearthguard, Auric Hearthguard, in order to pass off wounds. They're basically Saurus Guard that shoot.
Right. And even without
Uh,
the Auric Hearthguard, the Harvester is a monster and doesn't get
huh.
Lookout Sir, which is why we can kill it so easily. Their
But their
guys
heroes
are
do.
small, they are more durable than Bone Shapers are, and they can hide easier.
Hmm. Our endless spells are going to wreak havoc across their army, though.
Mm-hmm.
Geminids, Pendulum, Purple Sun, all
Oh,
of
Purple
those,
Sun
like
is
you
going to be
can,
great against Fire Slayers.
yeah, because it just outright slays, skips through all their saves, and yeah. So I think again, Starborn has the best matchup against Fire Slayers, and this is the main reason. Last time we were talking, where both myself and Erta are we like Starborn,
Mm-hmm.
and it's because it has the, in my opinion, and uh, yeah, it's just got the better matchup against the top armies. Starborn,
And most of its abilities aren't useless, just one of them.
yeah, yeah, uh, and kicking out all those endless spells, which you can definitely do with Quest. Um, but Coalesced eats up a lot of heroes that you need to bring to make SARS good. Uh, and you don't have to bring those with Starborn. You can focus on the skink stuff.
Right.
So it leaves a lot more to have more endless spells, to have more casters. Because endless spells are going to help you out against all those top armies, especially Daughters of Cain.
Mm-hmm.
Like your Geminids will do a lot to Daughters of Cain. You have the reach to like kill their supporting heroes, to kill their cauldrons, to get rid of that 5+5+5+. Um,
Yeah.
and
It
we're
almost
still an
makes me
army of
want.
screening.
Yeah. I mean, we always would be. We
Yeah.
Skinks aren't the best screen in the game anymore. They're not even close to being the best chaff anymore, but they're still good
Uh-huh.
at that one job.
And it helps that like a lot of the things that I view as competitive for our army has decent movement. Like salamanders move 8, pterodons move 16, skinks move 8.
Mm-hmm.
So you can create a nice safe that is permeable to you. Um, so if they run up to it and they kill it, that's fine. You can be close enough, but they still can't repile in and get to you if they double activate. But you can reach them on your turn perfectly easily.
Right.
So Daughters of Cain, which is one of, if not the best armies at the moment, um, I think we have a really good matchup against. They have to come to us, and we're great at screening. We deal enough mortal wounds and enough damage, and we have enough reach that we can kill their support and we can nuke their hordes. Uh, they're
And
probably our easiest matchup out of the top armies.
yeah, just remember, guys, always bring Geminids. This
Yeah.
cuts so much of the really scary stuff in the game down in half
Yep.
that uh, yeah, it is our best defensive option. It's one cast as opposed to two CP and a terrain piece to make us actually defensible.
And it's really good offensively because each thing it moves over you, and
Yep.
you set them up 18 inches, and you get to move them 8 inches. Um,
It
so
almost
especially against
makes me
Hearthguard.
yeah, it almost makes me want to have a sideboard like in Magic, where you have like 200 points of things you could take
Uh
instead.
huh.
I would always take Purple Sun then, just in my sideboard, and I wouldn't have Geminids always in my army just when I really need it.
What's funny is the club that I'm a part of, at like whenever we're commuting and stuff to go to tournaments and everything, because we drive everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
just because it's a hassle to fly. Most of the places that we want to go to are within like a day's drive.
Right.
So we just take time off and drive. But at some point in the car, that discussion always comes up like, oh, I wish this game had a sideboard. And you wrote a 2,500 point list, and then each round you played 2,000 points. Like that comes up all the time. Uh, so
It
it's funny that you were thinking that as well.
mainly it seems to be that people like to be prepared in case of the outlier, but we can't in this
Hmm.
game.
Yeah. Which I think, in terms of game health, it's probably good that we don't have a sideboard.
Granted,
Uh,
it'd be a nifty thing, but though.
yeah, but it would definitely require rebalance. Like I don't think it's just something you can plug in.
Right.
Maybe you could. I don't know. GW does stuff like that, so maybe they will. So the various brands and flavors of orcs also show up pretty often.
Yep. And
Uh, all the books from the Big Wall. So Iron Jaws, Bone Splitters. Bone Splitters to me, I think, is the harder matchup for us.
because they're just so
And then Big
fast.
Wall. Yeah, especially if they're running double Rogue Idol, like double Rogue Idol that's flying and moving incredibly fast. Like 22 plus inches,
Mm-hmm.
frequently like 28 inches or more. Uh, that's just hard to deal with. We have enough mortal wounds, and we're really good at unbinding spells. So I think we can do it. But out of like that top of B tier army, I think Bone Splitters is going to be our hardest matchup out of that bracket.
Right. Bone Splitter's defense is not in their save. It's the fact that they can put 200 plus wounds on the table.
Yeah, yeah. Their question is, can you kill me? Uh,
And the
and they
answer
have
for
enough.
us is actually no. We aren't killy enough to grind them out in the game.
Yep. We're mobile, so we can get to places before them. We can kill their wizards.
Which
We
is
can
really
unbind their
important
wizards.
because
Yep.
all orc armies like their CP. So kill the
Yep.
prophet as soon as you can.
Yep. The prophet, the war docs, like a lot of the list that you see for double rogue idol, they're going to have 2 or 3 war docs. You want those dead quick. You don't want the like if they give you first turn, whatever reason. Uh, you've got a skink blob, buff it up, Lords of Space and time it, and split your fire and try and kill 2 or more war docs.
Right.
Uh,
Let them die. It's more important that those docs go down.
yeah, yeah.
Remember,
Uh,
guys, our army is very good at dealing damage, but not at surviving damage at all. Be willing to sacrifice to deal the damage you need to do.
yeah, we have to make trades. And the goal is to just trade up always.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, use that knight to take a rook. That's what we're looking for. Just efficient trades.
Which is a good thing that our guys are so cheap.
Yeah, and we have like the mobility and all the abilities we need to do it. Um,
It takes
I
clever play.
think, yeah, I think we're going to be one of those a solid top of B tier army,
Mm-hmm.
except for those exceptional players who turn it into like that nightmare army that no one wants to play against.
Right.
Um, that's what I see out of our battle tome.
Luckily, though, the one good thing about this coronavirus thing is we haven't gotten the hate wagon that a whole bunch of recent armies have gotten.
Uh huh. Yep.
The big nobody's been able to play us, so the new thing is not the scary thing that needs to be immediately nerfed.
Yep.
They
Yep.
did anyway.
Which was glad.
But
Like it. Imagine if we had gotten all that hate before the FAQ come out. FAQ came out. Who knows what else would have been taken?
they would have taken salamanders.
Yeah, probably.
Because it doesn't matter if it's good or broken.
It's the perception that it's broken.
Yes, and remember, a lot of these people are Facebook players, and Facebook players don't know how this game works.
Yeah, yeah. The other orcs, Iron Jaws, this is the one army that I would say Coalesced has a better matchup against.
Because it cuts their main bonus in half.
Yeah, it just says you don't get your War Doc because you're still only going to be 1 damage
Your
Ard
War
Boys.
Chanter, yeah.
Yep. And it actually gives them a decent shot at surviving like the dreaded Maw Crusher with the +3 damage artifact in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like now you might live through it.
And we
You're
have
not
the
going to
damage.
kill him, but you might tie him up.
I don't know. We have the damage to kill a Maw Crusher. They only have 16 wounds.
It's true. If we swing first, we'll do it. But normally they're like double moving for a command point, and yeah.
Right. They're fast. They're a big missile, but they're also an expensive missile. So whatever they hit and then kill is not going to be worth more than us hitting back and killing them.
Yeah, almost always. One of the guys from my club, seems like every event we went to, I played him round 3 or 5, depending. And he plays Iron Jaws and or Big Wall. He just plays Iron Jaws, but he changes up which allegiance. In most of our games that we played, he would kill both my Engine of the Gods and with his Maw Crusher, and then I would turn around and kill his Maw Crusher. Like I think 3 of our 5 games went exactly that way. But what makes it harder now is like we can't just mass summon. So if you're playing against that missile Maw Crusher, you need to make sure the thing that because you want to bait them. You have to bait them.
Right.
You want to place them where you want them to be.
Luckily, that's
but
easy
you need to,
with orcs. They want to smash.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to make sure that like baiting them, the bait's good enough for them to take it, but it's not so good that it turns into not being bait.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, there are two types of orc players. One is way more dangerous than the other. The first is the one everyone expects. They want to charge across the field and hit you, and they don't care about anything else except doing massive amounts of damage.
Yep. And then there's the patient ones.
Then there's the ones who realize that their army works best if they don't charge. If they just
Yep.
walk forward, stand on the objectives, and realize they're durable enough to survive what hits them and then hit back and kill it.
Yep.
If your opponent does this, be afraid, guys. They know how this game works, and they're going to kill you.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what the guy in my club, his name is G. And that's normally what he does. But I just like I somehow always got into his head and was like, I got to kill those engines. Be like 120 skinks.
Well, Seraphon's playing
So
mind games.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we played all the time, so like I knew how to get in there. But yeah, there's patient players, and it's super fun to watch him play against someone who's not used to what Iron Jaws can actually do. Like
Right.
he runs roughshod everything.
Hmm. And
So yeah, Iron Jaws, Big Wah, Bone Splitters, they're that B tier army that we have to watch out for.
yep, and yeah, B tier that can jump to A tier if they're played well.
Yep, yep.
Yep.
Which is good. I think in terms of power level, Big Wah, Slaves to Darkness, uh, KO. I think KO has a really bad rap. I think KO is way better than people think it is.
I think it's
Uh,
mainly that KO is just written really badly.
yeah, yeah.
All of the
Um,
KO book feels like our Realm Shaper engine.
yeah. It's like what? Why did I give this up to get this? What? I can't use my cool thing because I'm a person. Yeah, it's a feels bad book, but I think it's still a good book.
Right.
But yeah, us, Slaves to Darkness, KO, Big Wah. I think like we're all those are the B tier armies that have everything that it takes to go A tier, S tier.
They just have to be very good at the game.
Yeah, it's not like Disciples of Zinch where you just have to have a.
Well, we have one more army to go over. They're
Uh huh.
very strong, but not the strongest anymore. Not with how the meta has advanced, but they are an
Yeah,
old enemy. Let's talk Skaven.
Skaven.
You know,
Whew.
Skaven is the
Uh.
dark mirror of our army.
Uh huh. Yep.
They do the exact same things we do.
Uh
They
huh.
are
Yeah.
a high damage horde army, but they
Hmm.
deal more damage, but we take less damage.
Yep. They're also, I would say, more brittle than us.
Yeah.
Because it's not that like their stuff dies easier. Specifically, I'm thinking of like the Plague Monk spam list or the
Mm-hmm.
like Mortal Wound spam list, Skyer or whatever. Uh, the Plague Monk list though is brittle because we can kill those Plague Monks really. Even the conflagration where they have the 6+ save after save,
Mm-hmm.
like we're gonna kill their congregation of filth. It doesn't matter. Destroy Plague Monks. Um,
Yep. You don't want them to close, and they because if they close and you kill them, they still kill you because that's what fighting twice after death does.
yep, yeah. Death Frenzy and Dreaded Death Frenzy, and then on a 6 they deal more.
Yeah, they're still scary, but yeah, Skaven is a heavy shooting army, which is what we do. They have good mortal wounds generation, which is what we
Hmm.
do. It's I don't think GW did it on purpose, but it's kind of interesting how it turned out.
Yeah, they're also that like pick your glass hammer and swing it type army.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least they are now. Before the Plague Monk nerfs, I actually stopped playing my clan's Pestilence. Uh, at the
Oh,
current time in the meta when I was playing them, uh, you just won. Like as long as you put your monks where they were supposed to be, it didn't matter if you charged, didn't matter if they charged, didn't matter if it was Slanesh, like whatever it was. Plague monks were going to kill it, whether or not you got to swing. Uh, so I'm glad they changed them. Like now I actually play them occasionally,
mm-hmm.
but they're way less scary than they used to be. But it's definitely still that like pick your hammer, turn it into a hammer, swing it. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, clan pestilence reminds me a lot of things of Sotek.
Mm. And the warp fires makes me think of thunder lizards, but good.
Yep, yeah, and the warp lightning cannons
That's what
and
I meant, but yeah.
Yeah. Rattling cannons, that Skyer Scurry, however you want to,
The
shooting list.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
vermin.
think
Shoot, storm. Uh,
Storm Fiends.
storm
Yeah.
fiends remind me of salamanders. Actually,
Uh-huh.
they
And Storm Fiends, I was going to say, might be the toughest Skaven list for us specifically to play against.
because they're so hard to kill.
Yeah. Yep. I think if you're playing Sora spam, you'll be fine. Um,
Hmm. So I'll be fine.
yeah, yeah. Uh, but against some of our other stuff, it's Pterodons. I think have a sort of decidedly bad matchup against the Storm Fiend
Because
spam.
they're such a
Uh,
small footprint. It's hard to get everybody over them.
exactly. Yeah. And it's not quite enough more for what you can do to like reliably kill him on more wounds. So like you're now relying on your bolas and your claws and beaks. Like it's they're I think the hardest Skaven matchup. Um, assuming like both players are playing at an equal level.
Right. We always assume equal level play. Because a good player can take a bad list and beat a bad player every single time.
Yep. Yeah. Unless that bad player is playing Disciples of
Mm,
Zinch.
yeah. When I say something is bad, I don't mean that you can't win with it. I say that it's going to be more work to do so.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
it doesn't fill the job as well as something else in our army.
Uh, there's one of the guys on Lustria online. I've never said his name out loud, so I'm wrong. But I want to say it's Iclane. Iclane. Yeah.
Iklan?
Yeah, Iclin. He has been talking about the Thunder Lizard Skink Chief on Pterodon with flamers and the crazy things you can do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so, since we're talking Skaven, I think this is the one case where it could be worth investing that much into your double shooting, not going to die Stegodon Chief with flamers. Um, just because there's going to be enough bodies.
Right.
But even though that's the best case, I want to put in the caveat. You could just use a horde, and if you send in a horde, it'll get to do its thing right away, and you don't have to wait for your next shooting phase to come around.
Right.
But yeah, it's worth mentioning that 270 point model. He can one shot pretty much any Skaven blob
Which is just
in the
so
right
much fun.
circumstances. Yep, yep.
Yep. Even our bad stuff isn't unusable, like, say, Cygors or the turtle from IDK. It's just they aren't. They. Our bad stuff just isn't good.
Hey, so the turtle's not unusable. It's just that everything else is so good in the book for Idonet that you look at the turtle and you think, oh, that's bad. But the turtle's actually really good.
Mainly,
It's just not ills.
everything it provides can be easily found elsewhere. Like the minus
Yeah.
1 to be hit, they have spells to do that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's actually a perfect parallel for our stuff. Sure, you could take this big old Stegodon, buff him to high heavens, and throw him at your enemies,
Yep.
but everything he provides gets provided way better by our other units.
Uh-huh, yeah. I mean, you would probably even be better taking the Carnosaur and turning him to 6 attacks
Mm-hmm.
to potentially do 30 damage and bite than you would be trying to shoot with the Stegodon.
Right, even with shooting, the math is better for the Carnosaur.
Yep, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And he's fast.
Yeah, he's faster. He's cheaper. Either version is cheaper. And he does it that turn versus having to wait a turn.
Mm. I don't know. And it doesn't take up your artifact slot, and it doesn't take up your... Yeah, okay. Let's
Yeah,
not
yeah, exactly.
continue to bash on Stegodons. Stegodons are solid when you're not going up against high competitive armies. If you just
Yep.
want to take them and have fun with them, go for it. They do great at tub thumping. They're like ogres in that regard.
That's actually one of the things I really, as a whole, like when you consider how it matches up against armies, we have a good ability to play up. Like we can build list that can beat OBR, Fire Slayers, or Disciples of Zinch. And we can build list that can play against ogre mall tribes and actually go to turn 4, turn 5. Like we can play up or we can play down.
Mm.
Um,
It,
and
it
that's something I always like to see out of a.
yeah, it's going to be a great army for actually teaching new players how to play.
Uh huh. Yep.
Not for them
And for
playing
teaching
Seraphon.
list
Good
building.
lord, don't do that. But
Yeah.
but
And for teaching list building
mm,
because so much of our army is like there's a few armies in the game where list building is equal to or more important than table play. And I feel like with our army, list building is going to matter a lot. Table play still matters in equal measures. It used to be beforehand, Seraphon was a list army. You won with Seraphon in the list phase as long as you control the table. Um, Now we're equal measures. We have to have a good list that understands how it's going to act through the different turns of the game, and we have to make the right choices. So much of it comes down to how we deploy, even more than before.
but yeah. So practice your deployments, everyone. We're finally back on the tables, and it's going to be glorious.
Yeah. I'm not going to be the only one at events anymore. Normally I show up and it's me and maybe one other person, so that'll be nice.
Mm-hmm. Well,
See some more lizards.
I am biased in this. Lizards are
Uh
the coolest models out there, even with the old derpy and dumb ones.
huh.
Playing Aztec dinosaurs is just cool. The only reason nobody was, and they were even when we were bad, was because we were bad.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I played us for 18 months at tournaments, and that was the only thing I brought to tournaments. Actually, that's not true. One time I brought Pestilence, and it was so unfun to play that I went right back to Seraphon.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So practice, 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 guys. We are a difficult army to run.
hmm I think our floor ceiling and floor roof, or skill ceiling, skill floor, I think those got squished together. Our skill ceiling was astronomically high. Like the level of mastery you could get with Seraphon was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But they brought that down a lot, and at the same time, they brought the floor up a lot. Because if you didn't know what you were doing with Seraphon, you didn't have a shot at with her.
Mm.
It just wouldn't happen.
It
If you were like running a knights list and you're expecting your knights to do damage, you were just going to lose everything.
right. It's still an army that you have to know what you're doing, but not nearly as badly.
Yep. Yeah.
You don't have our old book. If you made a single mistake throughout the entire game, you lost. Every
Yep.
decision was, do I lose or do I keep playing?
Uh
And
huh. Yep.
it was exhausting. Now,
Yeah.
yeah, now it's, do I play or do I play well?
Yep. Yeah. Overall, very good changes.
Does yeah,
Happy
well,
with our matchups.
yeah, good changes overall, bad changes in the FAQ.
Yep. Yep. We lost flavor. That's sad. Um, but I think it's going to do good things for the army. It's definitely done good things for Lustria. It's awesome to see so many new faces and returning faces.
Well, we just have
Uh,
stuff to talk about now.
yeah, and like it's just a ton of notifications. Like every day, check the screen like first thing in the morning, and it's like over 50 notifications.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Like that alone might be the best thing that's come out of this battle tome.
Renewed interest, yes.
Yep.
Well, is there anything else you want to touch on?
No, I think we've pretty much gone long enough. We've main things. Did you have anything to touch on?
No. I think that we covered it all, and the wilds are calling me back.
All right.
But thank you for talking with me today, Wizard, and
Yeah.
all everyone out there, have fun with your games.
Thanks for putting up with our rambling. Have a good night.